Let us begin our International Day of Peace. Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much. My name is Melinda Tremalio. I am a veteran, and I am also the president of the Palm Springs National Organization for Women. Thank you. And we're here today to celebrate something, believe it or not, that has been happening since 1981. This day was established by the United Nations in 1981 because it coincides with the opening of the General Assembly that happens every year on September 21st. Today, there are over 3,500 events in 187 countries that are celebrating the International Day of Peace. That really deserves an applause to know that many countries are recognizing peace and are opting for peace rather than war and talking about it. I think that's one of the most important things. In 187 countries, there's a growing amount of organizations supporting peace, but what can we do as individuals to promote peace in our community? I think that we can speak out about how we don't like war on the planet and we want peace. I think that we can help by showing up at events like this. I believe that we can help by talking to other people about, you know how many people I met today and I mentioned International Day of Peace and they had no idea there was ever an International Day of Peace? I don't know if anyone did that, but I spoke with about 3 or 4 people and they had no idea that today was International Peace Day, and it has been happening since 1981. You know, and there are people in this country that are working on a Department of Peace. We have a Department of Defense. Why can't we not have a Department of Peace? And that is our Ohio Senator Dennis Kucinich, Marianne Williamson, if you're familiar with them. They have put a resolution before our Congress and asked for a Department of Peace. What is peace? International Day of Peace. Rev Kevin Johnson is going to talk to us a little bit about what peace means to him.
Recently, the community-based Palm Springs Peace Pole Task Force was researching and developing a list of representative languages for the Coachella Valley. And this task was in support of the mission to apply the phrase, "May peace prevail on earth," in 16 languages to a peace pole to be planted in Palm Springs. The group was surprised to learn that the Cahuilla language has no word for peace because the culture has no need of that kind of phrase. So in working with the Malky Museum in Banning, an alternative phrase was composed to do the job. It goes like this: all everything good. It will be like that on this earth. Blessed Mother Teresa was known to say, peace is not something you wish for. It is something you make. Something you do, something you are. Something you give away. Dr. Martin Luther King said one of the most persistent ambiguities that we face is that everybody talks about peace as a goal. However, it does not take the sharpest-eyed sophistication to discern that while everybody talks about peace, peace has become practically nobody's business among the power wielders. Many people cry, peace, peace, but they refuse to do the things that make for peace. World War II General Omar Nelson Bradley often said, ours is a world of nuclear giants and ethical infants. We know more about war than we know about peace. We know more about killing than we know about living. We have grasped the mystery of the atom and rejected the Sermon on the Mount. Deafblind author, activist, and lecturer Helen Keller illuminates a vision when we hear her words. I do not want the peace that passeth understanding. I want the understanding that bringeth peace. So I say to you, in order to have peace, we must have more than words expressed. We must have competency. and foresight in action. For you see, peace is the moment, and it is the era when brilliance and power are fully realized in the assurance and intention that lives, children's lives, youth's lives, adults' lives, lives are more precious than gold. George Bernard Shaw, the playwright, wrote, "Peace is not only better than war, it is infinitely more arduous." And I close saying, peace is only possible when we undertake and maintain the hard work of understanding. And may we understand well enough to bring peace, to bring everything good onto stage, to take notice, and to give it a chance. Shalom. Salam. May peace prevail on earth.
Thank you, Rev Kevin Johnson. Thank you very much. We now have a political candidate here who is running for the 26th Congressional District, Cynthia Matthews. Want to come up, Cynthia? Cynthia, where is the 26th Congressional District? La Cañada, Flint Ridge.
First of all, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight in remembrance of peace. Tom, thank you for inviting me here to be a part of this. In this day and age, when we look around and see the direction that our country is going in, we see our young men and women being shipped overseas in the name of democracy. We have young children being orphaned, parents burying their children, men and women wearing black because their spouses are no longer with us. We wonder often, when will this stop? A first world nation of the world. You know, my uncle was a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient for the Korean conflict. And I often grew up in my home knowing that our family was very honored for having someone who served his country. His son is a 2-star general. He's over Homeland Security for the state of Texas. And our family is very proud to have military in our family who served this country. And I look out in crowds often when I speak, and I see people who are Vietnam veterans, Korean veterans, sometimes even World War II veterans. And I've spoken with them, and they're very discouraged about what we see. When you have the vice president getting on TV and saying that the Republicans are living in a post-9/11 and Democrats are living in a pre-9/11 state, the first response to me when I got on the radio the very next week was, you know, some of us are living in a pre-Vietnam era, and some of us are living in a post-Vietnam era. And as a person, prior to even running for politics, standing up against this war right after 9/11, knowing the direction that this country and this administration was going to take, standing up nose to nose with police officers in protest, going to city council meetings, objecting, standing side to side with gentlemen like Tom and this doctor here. And I've not had the pleasure of meeting you. But stories like this touch me into knowing that we should not have to bury another young man or another young woman. In the summer of 2004, I was honored to meet a group of veterans that wanted to bicycle from the West Coast to the East Coast to honor Vietnam veterans, called Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans, because they hadn't been honored. They said, Cynthia, if you really want to know who and what we are, come with us. So despite the grumblings from some of my campaign workers, I packed my bags the very next day and I went with them on a road trip for 2 weeks. I was honored to go to where it's an intake hospital in Colorado to see people who have served and people who come back. And people remember in Vietnam that there were a lot of men, but they forget there were women too. And I met a nurse who's still traumatized today. And what I'm concerned with is this administration cutting back on health care for our veterans. That this administration will not support their families in the manner that they should, that they will not educate their children in the way that they should, that they will not hospitalize or give them medical care as they should. In fact, they insult them, as Reagan did when they rolled back and eliminated mental health. And a majority of our Vietnam veterans ended up homeless, and they are there still to this day. It is the responsibility of each and every one of us to stand up and speak the truth, and speak out for truth, and speak out for peace. Because without justice, we can have no peace. And without standing up, there is no justice. And you know, tonight is a very important night that we gathered here today to honor this gentleman here and to remember those that have gone before us in the name of peace and those that are serving right now in Iraq, in the Middle East, in Korea, and even in South America. To remember that they have, some of them have no choice to be there because of economic reasons. And they choose to be there because they want to serve this country. And it's a disservice to send them for an illegitimate war. You know, John Kennedy stated, peace is a daily, a weekly, a monthly process, gradually changing opinions, slowly eroding old barriers, and quietly building new structures. And that resounds very loudly to me, especially after 9/11. But as we build new structures and new buildings, let us not forget to rebuild the internal part, the spiritual part of America. Let us remember that we have people here that we must, as we go out to spread peace and democracy, let's do so here. And I'd like to leave you with some words of John Kennedy. It's on my website, and it's been on my website since 2004. And it says, what kind of peace do we seek? Not a Pax Americana enforced on the world by American weapons of war. Not the peace of the grave or the security of the slave. I'm talking about genuine peace. The kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living. The kind that enables men and women and nations to grow and to hope and to build a better life for their children. Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, but peace for all times. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cynthia Matthews from the 26th Congressional District. I just noticed Anita Roth is here, wife of David Roth, and I see David walked into the room before. Come on up, Anita. And David Roth, who is the congressional candidate for the 45th Congressional District, running against Mary Bono, is here. I just wanted to recognize David's presence here this evening. Come on up. And his lovely wife, the wife is going to speak tonight. David's going to be quiet. The wife is going to speak. Anita Roth.
Thank you, Tom.
She looks better than David. You're right, Tom.
He's blind. That's not fair. All right. Good evening. I am deeply honored to be surrounded by all the people in this room who are so dedicated to making this world we share a better place to live. You are heroes, willing to invest your time and your energy and use your own personal pain to lift others up and prevent the pain of others. Each of us has been hurt by war. The war of the past, the fighting and the failures that fills pages of our daily newspapers and drains our humanity. Our world is weary of the neglect, threats, and jockeying for position of so-called world leaders or our nation's leaders, religious leaders, zealots, who are even now, if not planning, are currently ensuring, or certainly ensuring, the cycle of pain and the war of our children's future. When we stop for a moment of quiet, the unease is palpable. From the family and friends who have lost a loved one in the name of war, to people inexplicably losing their lives on our streets, from hunger, exposure, ill health, and bone-deep defeat. The people in this room offer our community and the world life-sustaining comfort, hope, and solutions. When we hear about and celebrate the lives of 400 children who were literally lifted up and set down in a new universe of possibilities, we can't help but feel a renewed sense of hope and purpose. Thank you, Dr. McKinney. We so need to hear and celebrate these powerful stories of real heroes and real happiness. David and I understand firsthand the thrill and honor it is to be part of lifting someone up into a new world of possibilities. When we adopted our daughter Olivia from Ethiopia, we saw firsthand how she would have been born into a life of an orphan, a life of insurmountable struggle. We are by no means heroes. I am not here to claim that of myself today. Our motive stemmed from a deep and personal desire to have a family. Yet the action we took to fulfill our own need, we now know, is so much bigger and so much more powerful than simply the hopes of our little family. David and I were taken aback by the looks we've seen in people's eyes as we tell our own very small-scale story. We hadn't realized how far the power of adoption would extend beyond our own home, that the lifting up of Olivia May Adenich and her power to create and lift up a family, her power, would actually lift the hearts and give a sense of hope to so many others. If our self-centered desire to love and be loved by a child has the power to do that, what Dr. McKinney has done is boundless. And the world is such a wonderful place because of people like you in it. I speak for my husband David when I say that despite the utter failure of our national leaders to stay connected to the very real pain and cost of war, poverty, and homelessness, there is hope. As David and I travel the 45th District, we hear every day the very real desire people have for peace and security. We hear about their daily struggles, but even more, we hear their stories of how they try to lift each other up. And then there's the shining light of individuals such as Dr. McKinney and Terry Davis, who I'm not sure, I haven't seen him tonight. I don't know if he's there. There you are. And you. Whose lead we all can follow, especially David, who will make all of these messages, take all of these messages and give them voice when he is elected to Congress in 46. I'm honored to have been asked to share my thoughts with you tonight. I have such respect for the people in this room. Tonight has been wonderful, Mr. Tom Swan, thank you. And tomorrow we must go back out and keep telling and retelling and celebrating Dr. McKinney's story of lifting up. And even our own smaller stories of lifting each other up. We must all not only live the life of the Good Samaritan, but talk about it, celebrate it, and revere the power we each have to lift each other up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anita. And let's see, I do have some certificates because of Veterans for Peace. This is just a certificate of appreciation for outstanding service, Arlene. I'm just going to read them off and I'll come out and give them to you. Arlene Rosenthal, thank you very much. Which is Veterans for Peace, outstanding service. Janie, is it Janie Hughes? Janie Hughes. And of course, Gail and Chuck Hodges. Gail as always. Thank you very much, Gail Hodges. And Paul Johnson. Appreciation to Paul Johnson. Steve Pugnier also. Ginny Fote. I don't know if Ginny's still here, but we'll get these to her. Oh, and Chuck Vasquez. Is he still? Chuck is still here. And Maison, Robin Thomas is still here. Also like to thank Dr. Aaron Gorin for outstanding service. And Mr. Steve Peterson, thank you very much for your entertainment tonight. And Dr. John Brennan, who is on piano right now, right there. And Esther Lapidus, who will be up entertaining us in a little bit. And Caitlin Day and Bob Calvert. Listen, again, I want to thank especially all the volunteers that helped put this together. Tom Swan, Veterans for Peace, and also all the entertainment tonight. Anita Roth, and the mayor is here, and Vic Gaynor is here, and Steve Peterson for your talent. I don't want to forget anybody, and Bob and John on the piano, and I loved your humor. Thank you very much for being here. And especially one more round of applause for Dr. Wayne McKinney. Good night, everyone, and thank you. Thank you, Dr. McKinney.